What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Omnic Lab. This is episode 193. We are a strategy podcast in the sphere of Overwatch. Sometimes things get a little crazy in the lab and break. We break some beakers and blow some things up, and this week in particular is going to be one of those weeks because we're stepping a bit away from the strategy and into some concepts and ideals that we have for Overwatch 2. I'm kind of spearheading something new. Took some stab in the dark to see some interest, and of the people that responded, it was only interest and it wasn't a whole lot of response. So hopefully you guys are okay with us doing our own thing. My name's Rob, and joining me as always from a bright and early Georgia morning is your friend and mine, Andres Gomez.
Hello, hello. Yes, good to be here. It's a nice day to be talking about Overwatch. And yeah, today is going to be a little bit more fun. We're going to be talking about some hero concepts. Rob has actually taken the time to design a lot of these, and they're based on the stuff that we would like to see maybe come Overwatch 2, some speculation about what the new heroes might bring, and also what we would like to see in the game, right? Some of the stuff is fun. We're not guaranteeing that everything here is a slam dunk idea, but it is based off of our desires. So if you guys have your own ideas, or hopefully this maybe sparks your own ideas out there, and let us know. Text us through Discord, your own hero concept, or through Twitter. I think that right now it's a great time for that, right? We're all kind of on the expectation of what's to come and what we would like to see. So yeah, that we take a stab at this.
In addition to this, I will put a big fat disclaimer right here that most of these concepts are going to be inspirations from other games that I have played and or heroes that I've played in those said games. So just keep that in mind moving forward, that lots of good games come from influences from other games and iterate on them. So that being said, we'll get into that here in a little bit. We got a couple things to get through kind of in our introduction. But the mid-May Cypher game night went off without a hitch, and thank you, Cypher and Swift, for helping run that game night. It's been a pleasure to just have you in the community making your own games and your own get-togethers and leaving the game nights open so that you guys can go do that thing. In addition to this, I am going to remind you that the next actual game night that we're running is going to be the 29th, or in this next couple of days from the launch of this episode. During the live show, it'll be on the 29th. But we'll probably end up doing a recap right after that game night with Andres. We're going to try to get 2 episodes out before the end, one on strategy and then this one. We've had some nightmares with scheduling lately because of me going back to work, and then we had some other stuff going on. In addition, Cypher is trying to reach out to get more people to take advantage of bonus coaching sessions. So if you're out there and you're wanting a coaching session but don't have the income right now with maybe the virus, then you can sign up on our Discord. Go and track down Cypher there and see if you can coordinate with her to take advantage of getting a coaching session. And Andres is here to tell you about what the coaching sessions are and how you can get involved in them on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we've been promoting them for a while. We offer coaching sessions to any of our patrons at the silver level or above. The coaching sessions has been going great. We've had a lot of you super interested. Every month we have at least 1 or 2 new faces and some returning faces. So if you guys haven't had a chance to take advantage of this, and you're really trying to maybe find other ways to analyze your Overwatch gameplay, sit down for an hour and like really work on that with a third person perspective. We really enjoy doing it. We get to know you guys quite a bit. We get to know what you're struggling with, and it helps us also inform what the topics of the show might be in the future. So super happy with how that worked out. I think this is the 8th or 9th month that we've been doing the coaching sessions.
So, honestly, I've lost track with how busy they've made us since we started doing them, because they've been so fun and enjoyable. I can't really remember when we started doing them, because I can't remember a world where we haven't been now.
Yeah, so long. They feel so natural. Yeah, it's hard to kind of think about that we weren't doing them before, but But yeah, it's been great. So if you guys want to check it out, go to Patreon, sign up. The best way to reach us to start a coaching session is through Discord. Alternatively, you can text us or email us through Patreon or the Omnic Lab email. We do check those fairly regularly, but the fastest will definitely be just writing us a Discord message.
Absolutely. To wrap up here with the announcements, the Anniversary 2020 event is set to conclude on June 9th. So if you want to go out there and get your boxes and do parts of the event, I haven't been covering this one as tightly as I have in prior. But the last thing that we missed on the last show before it launched was the Dragon Mercy skin is also available. So you can go earn some scaly wings to go fly on to support your friends. Before June 9th is expired. Again, just as a reminder, you can buy any skin in the game at the premium price that you would have gotten it during the event, but they're all available right now in the boxes as well as for currency. So if you've been banking currency to go pick up that Ana skin or that Pharah skin that you're missing, you can go pick those up. Additionally, we got some sad news this week that BlizzCon 2020 is officially canceled. We have been having a lot of things that have been getting canceled throughout the summer, and now it's starting to extend to the autumn season. And this one at the pretty much the tail end of the autumn, or rather the beginning of the winter season, depending on how you look at it, for the North American regions and the upper hemisphere. That being said, this is not something that was unexpected.
No, I saw this one coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
it makes sense.
Yeah. And to be fair, let's talk about it a little bit because this does seem like a huge loss for Blizzard.
Yeah.
But one, they already have a precedent for doing this online as well. So they have not only the infrastructure, but they know that they can like pull it off online with the virtual ticket. And just to give you an example, my company hosts its biggest event usually around this time. They do it in San Francisco, and it's the biggest event that the company puts out. It's the one that attracts the most people. Most of the companies that we want to talk to are there. So super important for the company. This year, it got canceled because of coronavirus, and instead, they decided to go fully virtual. Normally, at the event, you maybe have 800 to 1,000 people. This year that they went fully virtual and supported it only virtual and were like, this is what we're going to do. We had about 4,500 people in attendance. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that Blizzard will probably lose some money not being able to host the event live.
Oh, absolutely.
But that being said, they will also save an insane amount of money. It's not like BlizzCon is cheap to put on.
It's always ever been for the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always ever been for you and I to go to BlizzCon. It's meant for us.
And they will probably miss out a little bit on merch sales because once you're at BlizzCon and you see everyone kind of like decked out in their gear and stuff, I do feel like you kind of want
the collectors.
And the collectors
stuff.
You see everyone there, it kind of like makes you feel like you want to buy even more of the merch. So I'm sure they'll miss out a little bit on that hype. But that being said, I still think they can have a successful BlizzCon fully virtual.
I do think that there's a lot to that, Andres, as well. Something that I had been mulling over even now more so that it's canceled this week has been, if they do this, that means that they don't have to plan events regarding esports, so they can just remove all of that. They can have those entities that would be doing those things for the actual event and coordinations and sponsorships and flights and translators and all of that jazz. They can essentially outsource that to the team and get it a less than ideal staff because they're not actually at a physical location. So they have a less amount of staff to run the event online, and then they don't have to synchronize it with BlizzCon if they don't want to. And even so, they could, but the staff is not going to be split with outsourced like security. They have all these other things that are going on. There's people doing other meetings. There's all this coordination with interviews. They could still do those things, but like they have the luxury now of fully recording, pre-recording, pre-production, high quality audio, high quality video, and graphics, and set all of the BlizzCon event to be fully virtual so that when the event's going live, they can be conducting interviews. They can be conducting things. They could have pre-recorded some of this stuff and do it like a traditional launch would be for a game, right? They can do interviews. They can get testers. They can get people to put the NDA, sign the paper, and get it ready to queue up for YouTube on launch day. It's all possible.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that they can go about it now. And like you said, it frees up a lot of resources that you have to spend in some areas to maybe dedicate to some other areas. And it has ups and downs, of course. Like being able to be live does have certain benefits, but I think that right now, especially with how the world is going, doing stuff online is not that hard anymore. And like we have a lot of
Mm,
technologies, we have a lot of different solutions and products that can like take care of a lot of these needs. So, and especially at Blizzard being a tech company, like they
right.
have
Yeah. They have a
the
little bit more of
ability.
an advantage there.
Yeah, they have the ability to like really blow it out of the water doing a fully virtual event. And like you said, you can still do live stuff, just virtually, but you can still have interviews. You can still have things
Mm,
like chat interaction. People who want to ask questions can still submit them through certain
mm.
forums. Like the idea of like sitting at the mic and somebody from the audience coming up to the mic and speaking. That has been kind of like one of the most iconic things that you can do at Blizzard
Yeah. The
because you
live
can,
interview stuff.
yeah, you can literally stand up and ask your favorite developer a question about the game that you're playing. So that is huge, and like you still want to have those type of interactions, which I think are still possible in the format that
But
going
just
virtual.
just imagine hopping in Twitch chat with a couple thousand viewers in the English one, like the English broadcast, and they're doing their big launch thing for the big Poggers like opening ceremony digitally, and like Kaplan and the lead dev um JJ Allen Brack, like
Jay Allen
the
Brack.
CEO, just like sitting in Twitch chat.
JJ.
Like you're just all there and like, holy crap, Jab's here, Jab's here. Like everyone's ready to go. Sorry, I said JJ Allen Brack. Oh my gosh, it's JAB J Allen Brack. Sorry.
Jay Allen Brack. JJ.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like JJ though.
JJ Abrams. I almost went there. That would have been much more of a train wreck. Oh man. But yeah, like it's incredible the amount of stuff that they're going to be missing out on. I'm really curious because the one concern is that when you do something where you take it from an event, a physical event to a digital event, there's their own hurdles, right? And their own pluses and pros and cons and things that you lose out on. But this has this extra layer, which because the reason for the shutdown, right? The reason for the conversion is that it's because the people can't meet in person safely. So
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that this is going to be a one-to-one conversion as to what you would expect, because the personnel, the people setting up video recording teams and having a production staff and people producing graphics are not like having the ease of walking down like 2 steps from their cubicle to go ask somebody something. Like
Mhm.
you're going to be playing telephone tag, or you're going to be doing Discord messages back and forth and waiting on somebody to do their thing. You don't really have the luxury of making a production team to shoot a video. Like
No.
we've had a developer update from an iPhone. That's unprecedented, right?
Yeah, it's good that you bring that point up because pre-planning is gonna be key. If you're gonna do a virtual event like
Right.
this, where everyone's gonna be like in their home location, they're gonna have certain developers still at their house, and like everybody's sort of like scattered around. Like you said, there's gonna be a lot of people who are not prepared or don't have the right equipment. So to do a solid show, they will have to do some pre-preparing. Fortunately, though,
Right.
like doing a home setup with high quality is not that hard anymore. And I mean, you and me know because we have one at home that we've been building
Yeah.
very slowly with the podcast, and it does require some specialized equipment, but more and more that specialized equipment is becoming more accessible, cheaper, and higher quality. Honestly, right now you can get very easy to use USB mics that don't need anything else but just the mic, and you're usually good to go as long as you have decent mic
Yeah.
placement. Your room is not like super noisy, which I feel like most people can find a setup like that. So it'll be a lot of pre-production, and like you said, there it's gonna be different. So they do have to
And
kind
it
of
may
like
not
brace
look as
for it.
shiny and as polished, I'd say,
Hmm.
but it might still have the content and the promises and the setup and the due dates ready to go for you, like you would expect, right?
Now,
Like we had a hero launch with Echo because anything that Blizzard does, takes time and development hours, and it's going to be having that amount of time to get there.
yeah.
So that being said, I am confident that this is going to be a good event, but the last couple times BlizzCon has launched, there's been one thing, the last 2 times in particular, that something negative has come out of it. Um,
I was gonna
So
say more importantly than like it being virtual or live this year
yeah.
is more important than they blow it out of the water.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I agree with you. They've had two rather weak years of BlizzCon. Not that the
Mm,
BlizzCon itself wasn't entertaining or anything like that. Not at
right.
all. We were there
We were there.
for those BlizzCons, but honestly, the announcements and sort of like the meat that came out of the BlizzCons for the fans for the rest of the year wasn't that big. And like you said, there were some big hiccups, right? They had the Diablo mobile hold the backle.
Then we have the
They
stuff that happened on the back end with Warcraft 3 being such a big news drop, and then when it finally came, it was a big disappointment, right?
I felt really bad about Warcraft 3 because to be honest, now in hindsight, in retrospection, looking at this, it looks like the year that it got announced, honestly, Blizzard didn't have much else to announce.
We kind of thought that was the big thing.
All of the projects were backlogged and they had nothing big to be like, hey, this is our big reveal for the year, right? Like
Right.
they had a new World of Warcraft expansion, but that sort of like loses its impact because every year there is a World of Warcraft expansion announcement, right? Like people are
Or major patch update. Yeah.
yeah, people are already used to that, right? But
Right.
we're coming off of the back of BlizzCon where they released Hearthstone. They released
Overwatch.
Overwatch, right? Like the announcement. Even Heroes of the Storm back in the day had kind of big hype, like Blizzard Dota coming out finally. But then,
I mean, to
go
be
ahead.
fair to them, I don't think that they can top those sort of things. You know what I mean? Like, unless they're gonna introduce a new IP, it's just not. You're not gonna have a BlizzCon like that.
I totally agree with you. It's really, really hard to top those things. So
Exactly.
when you climax like that in a BlizzCon, and then you're next to BlizzCons, you don't have too much, or the next three BlizzCons, you don't have too much, and the last one really is, you know what? We're remastering this game. It's a fan favorite game, Warcraft 3 Reforged. And I think that they went in all in it, right? They were like, let's highlight Warcraft 3 Reforged. Let's hype it up. Uh, Honestly, I feel like the developers of that game or the people who were in charge of remastering it felt probably pressured, and that's why they promised so many things. That's why they were like, yeah, we're gonna like remake
Mm.
campaigns, we're gonna add new modes, we're gonna like do all this stuff that
Now,
at the end of the day they couldn't deliver.
with this is the third time since BlizzCon started that they have not held it in house, right? In a venue. 2006 and 2012 are the other two times that they didn't hold them. And in addition, this particular BlizzCon, if they count it as an event and they have the event online, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This will be BlizzCon 14. So if they're going to pack something ginormous, it's not even so much that this year has to be the year. Because you know what? If they're going to do something disappointing, this is the year to have a free pass, right? They got Overwatch 2 coming on the horizon. They don't know when to do it. They might just say it's coming, but it's going to be delayed and not have a due date for us, right? They may just say, like, this is what we got now for Diablo, for next steps for Diablo 4, whatever it might be. And then Big 15 drops, and then they drop a new IP, and coronavirus is potentially calmed down by then, right? So if they're gonna do it, you got a global pandemic to help you on the back of this to make this a little
will be a
bit
good
more
excuse.
disappointing. Be okay, like
Yeah.
lessen the blow.
I will say it would be better for them not to do a BlizzCon than do one and not have
And it'd be
a solid
disappointing.
announcement. Yeah, at this point, I think
Yeah.
it would hurt them more. Because, like, if you think about it, like, Blizzard right now is in a tough spot. All of their main games are really good, but they've been out there for quite a while, and I think that they don't have the same impact that they're used to having, right? Or they were having before. Second, they have revealed that they have plans of coming up with new games, aka Diablo 4
2 of them.
and Overwatch 2, which are
Yeah.
huge releases. But no news in sight. When they announced this, they said, this is not even Blizzard soon. With both of them, right? And I think they were pressured into even saying that they're working on these things, right? If it was up to them, they would have kept it under wraps and not said anything. But the fact that their previous releases kind of flopped a little bit, right? Like Warcraft, Reforged, Heroes of the Storm also had a very rough
They
year,
seem to
and
be pushing a lot of those assets into that classic engine, right? They're trying to basically test the waters and say which of these classic engines is going to stick, right? They did
Mhm.
classic WoW, now they did reforged Warcraft 3, they did a revamp on StarCraft 2. Um I
and
don't know
honestly,
if
it's kind of
Overwatch 2 even
crazy.
qualifies as that, because that kind of is similar to a revamp of the initial game, but they're going not backwards but forwards because it's a new IP.
And I think that's kind of crazy. It almost seems like Blizzard is on like life support right now, right? Where it's keeping itself alive with its older IPs and bringing those back and reigniting the nostalgia that a lot of the diehard fans that Blizzard has to come back to them, right? But at this point, what Blizzard really needs is that big release, right? That what they're really known for, that one game that just everyone starts playing, like Overwatch did when it came out, like Hearthstone did when it came out. Because right now you have a lot of really stiff competition. Like other companies have really stepped their game up. And to be fair, Blizzard has set the example for many years, but that has also made other companies realize like what it takes to be at the top, and a lot of them are running for that spot. The most renowned one right now being Riot, right? Which it's coming with direct
Valorant.
competition to every single IP that Blizzard has right now at this moment. And a lot of those companies are taking the hype away. Not just Valorant, but I think there's a lot of different games competing for the attention of people. And
Mhm.
honestly, if Blizzard doesn't release something this year that brings attention back to them, I think that they might be a little bit forgotten. I mean, Blizzard games are always going to be iconic, but when you know that they're not going to be coming up with anything exciting or anything new in the horizon, your shift might start focusing on some of the companies that are bringing that to you right
Yeah.
now. Um,
It's
so
also
yeah, I
interesting
think
to
it's
look at
important they
like
have a
the
good one.
MMO market. Like I've been thinking about this because I've been playing Final Fantasy 14, but I think that there's weird concurrent numbers versus total numbers of like recurring players, depending on when you're looking at it and timeline wise. But like Final Fantasy just did a bunch of patches with their last expansion, and the current one is doing a big revamp coming soon this summer. Like between now and it was supposed to come out this month in June, this coming month in June, but it was delayed with coronavirus, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. And then WoW and WoW Classic has effectively split their player base in half. Um,
Hmm.
most people are either most people from WoW. The biggest hit that WoW took was the people going to Classic more than anything.
Right.
Like besides the general decay of expansion to expansion, right?
Hmm.
Um, but the MMO market also, you have to include things like Destiny and Morrowind, or not Morrowind, Elder Scrolls Online, and Star Wars. Like you got all these other MMOs in the market, but we're not gonna kind of belabor the point. That's like for another BlizzCon thing. We'll probably revisit this in a couple months
No,
when it
but
rolls
it's true.
around.
It's true. And
But
like
yeah,
now you have even big players like Amazon trying to get into like the MMO
yep,
market. And I mean, you know that a company like Amazon at least has the resources to put something out there that can compete with other AAA titles.
hmm
And it has the resources to keep it going, has the server infrastructure. Like they can be direct competition to Blizzard. Um, so I don't know. I think that right now, like Blizzard is sort of in a maintenance mode. To be fair, I do think that they have something planned. I don't think they're just sitting around like waiting for this to happen. As we
yep,
have known, there has been a lot of changes within the organization, and
yep,
most of the manpower has been reallocated into development positions. Um,
for the new
even-
game.
yeah, for the new games or for Overwatch as well. I'm pretty sure that Overwatch right now is firing in all cylinders, trying to work for Overwatch 2. Same with Diablo 4. And
Yeah,
who knows what
and
happened to
maybe new IP. We don't
Diablo
know. There's some weird
Immortal?
rumblings going on.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. They shelved that for now. I feel like they're gonna release it in China first, and and then release it here.
Yeah, something like that. Um, Man, I tell you what though, this is a good launch point for talking about what I would like to see in Overwatch 2. Now, as we jump into these hero concepts, I don't want to take a bunch of hits on this for like Twitter or whatever on Discord. Again, I'm not saying these are great ideas, like Andres said. These are not like fantastic ideas, but these are different, and I tried to, use some things that I thought would be interesting from other games or from my head of stuff that I like to do, whether it be from Dungeons and Dragons, League of Legends, Final Fantasy 14. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Just from other heroes in Overwatch currently. Other things that I thought would be just interesting mechanics. But it's not even exhaustive. Like I felt like the more I kept writing on this, the more stuff that I could have come up with. It's just a matter of like, what do you want to commit to? Do you want to commit to a hero that's based off of the gun? Do you want a hero that's based off of a theme? Do you want a hero that's based off of just purely abilities and then you assign those abilities something? Do you want a story for a character and then after you've made the character in a specific context, then what abilities would that type of thing have? Because Blizzard has talked in their development Q&As online and at BlizzCon when they did stuff like this. Anytime they create a character, they say they're in those camps, right? Ash is a gun that has a gun that, like the Viper, that is really unique. McCree has the Peacekeeper. Widowmaker has the Sniper. Hanzo has the bow. You know, these are gun-based heroes that are really cool. And then you got other stuff where it's like Echo is a story, a flight machine that is an AI that they assign some other stuff. They're like, okay, it's a protector, but it's also really offensive and it's made by scientists. So what would that look like? Sigma's like, we want another barrier-based hero as a primary concern, but he's also this really rich story. And Overwatch doesn't ever skimp on story as far as creating something that could possibly have a super deep story and overlapping with other engines, but it's not always fleshed out. And that's on purpose, right? It's like a module book that you make for a tabletop game. Like you set up the story, but you let people play, you know?
I think they do a really good job about that, where each character has a very defined personality, where once you get to know the characters, it's almost like the stories write themselves, right? You can sort of picture like how that character would fit in the story and how they would act. So they're really, really good at like setting up those personalities and kind of like those niches for their heroes. You can clearly see where they're fit. What they don't do as much is write the story themselves, right? I think that they're really good at giving you a little bit and then kind of letting your imagination do the rest, which, you know, it's good and bad. I would definitely like to see more produced by them because it's sincerely awesome. But then,
speaking of which, we did get some news update. There's a novel about Ify and being the hero of Numbani. Is a new novel that they're releasing. Yes, I need to grab that news update so I can quote it exactly.
I'm still very salty that they pull back their comic release. They're gonna do like
the
this
comic
big
is super disappointing.
Yeah, and I had purchased it and everything, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we're not releasing that anymore." I'm like,
okay,
no!
So this is their big summer news. The world still needs heroes. Are you with us? Available June 2nd. Pre-order now. The hero of Numbani. Talking all about Ify and Orisa's adventure. The first official Overwatch novel is critically acclaimed by the author Nikki Drayden, is coming June 2nd. The hero of Numbani tells a story of Ify and Orisa's heroic origins, offering a glimpse into Talon's machinations in Numbani and providing some must-know hints about things to come.
Very interesting.
This action-packed tale is available to purchase from Scholastic. So if you're wondering who is the publisher,
is to get
that is
Harry Potter
A
books
grade
from
publisher right there. Yeah. I'll just read the book summary. How's that?
Sure.
I won't read the excerpt because it does say spoilers ahead, but I'll leave the link up for you to check it out on your own. In the technology advanced African city of Numbani, in a not so distant future, humans live in harmony with humanoid robots known as the Omnics. But when a terrorist tries to shatter that unity, a hero named Ify Oladele rises. Ify has been making robots since she was little, machines to better her own community and improve people's lives. But after she witnesses Doomfist's catastrophic attack on the city's OR-15 security bots, Ify feels the call to build something greater, a true guardian of Numbani. When Doomfist sows discord between humans and Omnics, Ify engineers an intelligent and compassionate robot, Orisa, named after the powerful spirits who guide her people. Orisa has a lot to learn before she's ready to defeat Doomfist, but Ify has some learning to do too, especially when it comes to building and being a hero. With Doomfist rallying his forces and the military powerless to stop him, can Ify mold Orisa into the hero Numbani before it's too late? It's like
This
that
is
good old
this is
long
interesting
boy story.
because to me again it sounds like a peripheral story, right? Where they're developing some characters, but they're not developing the main storyline. And I almost wonder why they are so afraid to develop that main storyline, right? Because I almost feel like they're afraid to ruin it. Because right now, Overwatch has been fine lore wise, right? Like we can really picture a lot of ways the story could be going. What how Overwatch is gonna come back, how they're gonna fight against Talon, all this stuff. But the second they put that into writing, it's there, right? And it seems like they've struggled a really long time with what direction they want to take the story in. Because this is the fifth year almost, and we still haven't gotten that backbone. Now
This
we might be
excerpt is
getting it.
long, by the way,
We might be
and
getting with
Lucio's in it.
Overwatch too. Oh, Lucio's in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So interesting. A lot of side characters that we haven't heard from in a while.
It depends on who your main is who's the side characters, Anders. Let's be honest here.
Okay, yeah, you're right. But when I say side characters, is like when I think main characters, I think of like Winston, Tracer, Soldier 76,
Original Overwatch.
Yeah, like the like Reaper, right? Like the
OG
main
Overwatch, Blackwatch.
the
Talon,
characters that are the center of this story. When I say like peripheral characters, I mean like Lucio, Symmetra, Efi, like all these heroes that have kind of like joined Overwatch, but they're not part of like that main branch of the story.
Yeah. All right. I'll belabor the point and try to put enough disclaimers up for my terrible hero ideas. Let's get into these. All right. The first one I'm going to start with is the gun-based heroes, because I feel like these are maybe weaker concepts, but they are the first ones that I came up with. The first one is actually an idea based off of the hero from League of Legends called Gnar, who is a shape-shifting beast tribe, like small little cute Yordle that throws a boomerang. And then after a certain amount of time and building up rage, he transforms into this monster. So this hero is based off of a boomerang mechanic and could be a good candidate for a DPS or a tanky DPS rather, and or a tank hero that would be considered a true off-tank similar to Roadhog. So this, again, is a boomerang hero. So the main thing that I had conceptually around how does the boomerang work is that it can hit once for a major source of damage. It's not like other heroes where you have like you can continually fire, you can do all kinds of stuff that would be like a skill shot that you would fling out there, similar to like a Moira Orb or a Sigma primary fire, right? Where they fire 1, 2, and then you have like a significant cooldown before you can use it again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe extend that to be a little bit longer, but when the weapon hits, or when the weapon rather follows a distance, it will return, or if it hits an object, it automatically returns to you in some way based off of how you threw it to begin with. And maybe they have a set trajectory that you can memorize, or it always goes straight, or it always goes at an angle, however you want to do it. Maybe it goes to the next, like if you throw it while moving left, then when on the return trip, it will return backwards and left based off of when you threw it, what directions you've already inputted.
Yeah,
then if you miss, the target that you miss or the targets that you miss, when it returns, it can still hit for full damage on the return trip. But there's a really cool mechanic around this skill shot to reward good play. So when you hit the target at the max distance, right, it would go all the way the distance, or it would hit a barrier, right, or a like a environmental area before returning. If it does that, and you're at max range, so let's say you're playing Genji and I throw it, hits you at max range, the source of damage that it hits you, the primary and the secondary, right, the initial and the return trip, it will do both sources of damage at the same time. So it'll hit you for the first hit and the second hit immediately for big burst.
If you're at like the very edge of the return.
Yeah, and then the big thing is if you happen to get hit by both sorts of damages, even if it's not at the same time, right? You get hit by the first one, and then it goes its full distance, and then it hits you again. The second time you get hit, it's for a significantly reduced amount of damage the second time. Like 50% or more. Because that's how NARS worked, is it would hit you and then it would return, but you would get hit for full damage on either trip, the first one or the second one. If you get hit max range or you get hit twice, you get hit reduced the second time.
So I kind of like this boomerang idea. I'm just thinking of a few things, like what would happen if you throw the boomerang at a certain corner where it could get caught up in like the walls, or maybe like if you throw it and run far away to the point where like technically the boomerang couldn't return to you. Would it take longer to return to you? Would it hit more walls until it can come back to you?
So I had been thinking about that. I think that this mechanic would potentially maybe even not even be the primary gun, but it could be the main featurette, right? You have a couple of different styles of boomerangs,
and like an ability, and then he has like
Yeah.
some sort of primary fire.
Right? Yeah, of course. And I'm thinking this is obviously an Aussie, right? This is somebody to go with your boys Roadhog and Junkrat for sure.
Kangaroo outfit somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be sweet. But the return trip would be interesting because if you couldn't catch it or it couldn't get back to you, it would just disappear or break.
Okay. So
and then you would have a longer cooldown.
Maybe after a certain duration, you kind of like lose it basically if he hasn't returned
so
to you.
The way NARS worked, again, this is taking off of League of Legends, so you'd maybe have to modify some of this. But if you catch your boomerang, you get a short speed burst, and the cooldown recharges faster, or you like remove some of the cooldown timer from catching. So it rewards like throw and catch mechanics, and you can speed up the mechanic. Maybe that's the trick. Is you throw it fast and it returns fast, but there's got to be some sweet spot for counterplay, I would imagine, or you'd have to nerf the damage to the point that it wasn't too threatening, or you can make the damage really threatening and make it a really long cooldown.
There's one mechanic in Valorant right now that every time that I use it, I really enjoy it, and it actually is fitting for this ability. I don't know if you have had a chance to play it, but certain abilities in Valorant, you can just click the button and release them and they'll go out. Or you can hold the button as you're releasing them. And then depending on where you look in the battlefield, the ability will sort of curve or change depending on what you're doing. To give you an example.
Like the flashbang thing, right?
Well, that one is said, but like, so Phoenix, the guy that I'm talking about, he's like the fire guy in that game.
Yep.
He has that flashbang, but more importantly, his firewall. If you just throw his firewall, it'll go in a straight line in front of him, just super straight. But if you throw the wall and hold the button as you're throwing it, and then look to the side, the wall will curve. So you can create like curved walls. You can create a semicircle. You can create like just an open curve, and it's really cool because depending on the terrain,
sounds pretty intuitive.
Depending on the terrain that you're trying to block, you can kind of like modify the shape of your wall based on
it could help you hit like Ferris, for example. You could do some interesting counterplay with aerial heroes like Pharah and Echo and Mercy.
Yeah, you can also do it with Jet, for example, like the super fast hero in that game. She throws like this smoke orbs. And same mechanic. If you throw them, they just kind of like go straight and kind of like arch down. But if you can throw them and then hold the button and like look to the side, and it almost looks like a Dragon Ball Z like spell or like power.
Key blast?
You're just controlling it in the air, and like you can make this thing like curve around. You can even do like S shapes in the air.
I can't remember the ability. It wasn't Masingo or something like that. It was like Destructo Disc, I think, is the one you can move around.
Oh yeah, kind of like that. You kind of like exactly like
DBZ
that.
Yeah, DBZ for game development. Let's go.
but this boomerang seems like it could use a mechanic like that, right? Where like if you throw it, it'll just go straight. But maybe if you throw it and you hold it and look to the right, maybe the boomerang will slowly start arching towards the right.
Now listen to this though. The cool thing about this boomerang is that there's no CC. Which Blizzard was talking about. There's no CC, no crowd control with this ability. It doesn't displace. It doesn't move the targets. It's instant damage, right? And maybe it can be interacted with. Maybe if you deflect it, it's really crazy because the Genji can catch it and then get the speed boost increase. If he deflects it and then catches it, then he gets a speed increase. That would be nutty.
I
right?
think
If you deflect this properly.
I think it would be fine if the boomerang had a little bit of CC, not anything crazy.
Maybe
but
like a helix rocket, right? Like that tiny little displacement.
maybe
Just a
some
little bit.
displacement. Maybe it can slow you down just a little bit. Maybe like 20% slow. Maybe
10.
it could do a stun, but not like a stun like we're thinking about, but like a mini
Interrupt.
stun, an interrupt, exactly, where it's not meant to like leave you standing in one place for some time, but it's more meant to interrupt any channeling or any like sort of abilities that you might be trying to like.
Yeah, see, I personally don't think
There's
we
no-
needed more of those.
there's not that many channeling abilities. Yeah, you're right.
There's not many of the channeling abilities, and the wind up ones like Lucio and drop the beat or sound barrier and Earth Shatter with Reinhardt. I don't
Or
want any
whole
more
hog.
stuff to like
It would
interrupt
feel
those.
horrible whole hogging, and then you get boomerang.
Yeah,
in the face.
there's quite enough CC in the game right now. Let's be honest. But yeah, the other thing about this that
maybe a slow could be interesting.
A slow would be good,
Catch up
yeah.
to people.
especially if it's just small. If you're just trying to get away, it's a kite mechanic.
A kite,
But the other
or
thing
like
that's
a
really
catch
cool
up?
is if you interact with that slow, Andres, let's build on this, and you catch it, not only does it reduce the cooldown, but it gives you the same reduction on their speed as a bonus to your speed. To kind of, so instead
Okay,
of
now
giving them a
now you're
big
talking.
slow, you're giving them a little slow and then you a speed increase.
Okay, now you're talking, because you can give him a small slow and then a little bit of a speed increase on you, which alone, like the speed increase on you is okay and the slow on them is okay, but combined, now you maybe
big.
have sort of a chaser, right? Like a Hunter Jack, the kangaroo boomerang guy.
Now, the thing that I was interested about is in situations where there's multiple teammates and barriers, how would we want this to interact with the barrier? Because personally, I think that this hits a barrier for full damage. And the way you get around it is the secondary damage reduction, right? So if it hits something on the way out and then it hits something on the way back, the second hit is reduced. I like to keep that. But if you hit a barrier and it returns immediately, then I want the secondary damage to be full damage to barriers.
Like it hits for
I think that
both
could be
hits.
cool.
Yeah, that could be
Yeah, so for
interesting.
both hits.
I
To help you
think-
damage bust
I
a
think
barrier.
even cooler though, like what if, because you can curve it, you can throw it around the barrier, and on the return trip
And then
you
bring
can
it in.
hit people. And what if, like, if you hit 4 people, you take 10% speed from each one, and you get 40% speed.
I think that would be cancerous. Like that would be too much. I think you could do that mechanic and have a multi-hit bonus, but the same thing would apply, right? Like it would just be a very minimal amount of speed reduction to
Right.
each person you hit. And then the bonus that you can gain in your speed would be capped.
Okay,
Like
so you can't get
20,
like 60.
25 max.
You can get 60% speed bonus.
No, I'd say like you would probably cap off at like
Maybe
25
20,
because
yeah,
you'd make this
20,
additive with Lucio. That's the
Okay,
idea.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You'd make it additive.
So I'm liking this idea. I think
And there's
that to
one
ra-
extra twist.
Okay,
one extra
what is
twist.
that?
There's no wall climb. There's no double jump like Genji and Hanzo, but you can wall jump like Mario and Lucio, but you don't have skates. So the idea is that you have some sort of cacti clinging like mechanics where you grab on to the wall and you can stay there and throw your boomerang and then jump off. And it's more of a gimmick than anything. But the idea is that you can get higher grounds in a different way than other heroes. So if Mei drops a wall in front of you, you can do a wall jump and get another jump back.
Interesting.
So it's kind of weird. You could essentially wall climb, but it would be more of a iterative, like I'm jumping here, stick, jump, stick, jump, stick. So you like hold
Like a
instead of holding down the
frog.
space bar, you would have to like jump, release, jump, and you'd hit the jump key again to grab. So
Okay,
it would be pretty
interesting.
easy to do.
Interesting. I like that. I think that to round out
Like
the
Zelda
hero,
or Mario.
to round out the hero though, it seems like this hero seems like a chaser. He seems like if people are trying to run away from you, you'll be able to catch up. I would like just to round it off to maybe put something where he can take advantage of the speed that he has taken away, right? Because after
Like give it to an ally.
like after he has done the boomerang and slowed people down, like how does he capitalize on that, right? Because the boomerang is the ability that is hitting everyone. You're doing some damage with it. You're slowing down, but then what does his other abilities do, right? I want them to work kind of like around that concept as well.
I think that if you're chasing somebody, it's either you want him to be a chaser or you want him to be a peeler. Because if you want him to be a peeler, you can give him some capability of allowing him or forcing him into a playstyle that is beneficial to him, where you hit somebody and you slow them down, and that in and of itself kind of discourages them from chasing you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get them to chase you, you can maybe like drop some mines or like caltrops to like slow them again and hit them harder. But the caltrops are not really great unless they're chasing you.
So, okay,
You know what I mean?
I like this a little bit. So this is a hero that, one, is annoying to get to. Two, might be able to peel for your teammates if you're getting dove in or dived. I don't know what the proper term is here.
Dove.
If you're getting dove, you could help your healers. You could help maybe your tank, sort of like slow the enemy down.
And it's not CC per se, right? It's not hard CC.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, get away from my healers, please. Or get away from me.
Okay.
And I'm getting out.
I like this idea.
Now, the hard thing is these aren't a full character concepts. These are partial. So I don't have an idea for an ultimate for this, but I would like an idea similar. Like if this was a kangaroo hero, let's be honest, then I want something similar mechanic to a Winston jump or a Zac ultimate from League of Legends, where the ultimate is just you jumping over and over again and doing damage with your jumps. I think that would be hysterical.
Interesting.
Anytime you hit them, there's a slight knock up. There's no interruption, but it just CCs you just a little, and you just hit them a bunch of times. And you can do that like 3 or 4 times, and that's it.
Maybe your boomerang just goes insanely big, and you just fire a big boomerang.
It's the whistle mechanic from Guardians of the Galaxy. You can control it like remotely.
Oh,
and it does more damage.
The boomerang.
You can just do it from spawn. Like,
all right. Well, let us know what you guys think of Boomerang Kangaroo Man, and if it's something that you could
just call him Boomer.
Boomerang,
okay, Boomer hero.
Boomerang Kangaroo Man. That Boomer Kangaroo.
This is our biggest Boomer idea yet.
Oh man, this is going downhill fast. All
right, let's get to the next one before.
Yeah, we probably have time for one more. So pick your favorite one, and we can still definitely do more episodes like this one. This is pretty fun. Let us know what you guys think about this.
All right. Well, I will give you a taste of what I've written and not like what the full thing is. But I have a card throwing hero similar to Gambit from X-Men. I've got an explosive round hero, which is very controlly over the gun. I've got some ability-based stuff that's a little less thought out, like an ally throwing mechanic, an invincibility mechanic similar to Baptiste, but it's only on yourself. A dig mechanic, so like a mole, somebody that can go down and pop up, avoiding damage and going under the ground, maybe giving something to your allies. And then a dancer mechanic that I kind of straight up stole from Final Fantasy that I think is great. So what do you think, Andres? What do these pop out to you?
They all sound kind of interesting in some ways. So, I mean, let's go with this dig mechanic. This sounds interesting.
The dig mechanic? Okay. So the dig mechanic is, again, less thought out than these other ones. But the idea for this hero is that it's probably a damage-based character. And they have something like a slower version of Tracer's Blink or a Moira Fade. But the ability allows you to benefit from it being slower because you are uninteractable for that time period. And you go under the ground as a burrow. And then while burrowed, everyone can see where you're moving, and you can move maybe slower than normal or maybe faster than normal once you're burrowed. And then they can see where you're going to return from your burrow a little bit ahead of time, like a giveaway of where you are at. And then when you resurface, you can hit people for a big burst of damage. And it is actually a knockup mechanic. So this one is a CC, but I think that this is potentially strong enough to be an ultimate capability, right? Mm-hmm. This is something that even if you didn't want the burst itself to be the damage, maybe you do something like Rek'Sai from League of Legends. Again, you happen to pick the other one. It's like the League of Legends characters, but this one is like, it jumps out. So it's a little bit more of a leap. And once it jumps out, it kind of just does a big cleave damage. So it's a little bursty. So I don't know how bursty they want to make their mechanics with this. For other heroes, they're a little bit more sustained damage, but this would be more like a Riptire where you kind of just jump out and yourself is the weapon, and then you do a big like 1-2 swipe, and it does two things in a zone. I don't know. But that was kind of my idea for this one. And then the other thing that was cool about this is if it was a digging based hero rather than just a digging ultimate. I thought that the game needs more things than Lucio that give speed. So a lot of these ideas are trying to benefit from speed. This one was a kind of ground tilling ability. So it would work similar to racing mechanics where you would have somebody backdrafting you and you gain speed when you have them break the wind for you. But this one is built into making the ground easier to walk on or making it maybe a slight incline down like a slide. It lets you like ground slide or something. And in doing this ability, I think that side of it, if you put it in, that would be more of a speed-based tank. Because this type of hero, you would want them to be in the front lines. If you got teammates behind you.
It almost seems like an initiator, right? Because if it can burrow in the ground, be kind of invulnerable until it resurfaces, and then sort of CC people. You can. It sounds like an initiator. You get in first, you kind of get that boop into the air, which allows your teammates to maybe capitalize on it.
For an ultimate, seems pretty good.
It does seem like maybe, this reminds me, this is totally a League of Legends hero or like a MOBA.
It is.
Like a MOBA hero. Because this reminds me of a lot of heroes that has existed like that, where you can like burrow, sort of come out with a stun. A lot of these heroes need almost like an armor, right? Or capras, because mostly the ones that I've seen like this are like insects that have like some sort of like capras or something that they can defend themselves with. Since you're initiating carapace, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yep, I got you.
But yeah, you need something to sort of defend yourself when you come out and you're like in enemy territory, right?
Yeah, the only thing that's kind of slowing this down as more of a stronger character concept is the fact that ball exists, right? Because it's still similar mechanic, right? Ball goes in, and even though the hit points are still interactable, it's fast, it's hard to hit. It doesn't have a head hitbox, and you can still damage it. I think that whatever you do with the burrow mechanic, you should be able to be shot. I think that that's beneficial. Or maybe reduce damage, or your full hit bar changes to be slower, and you also gain armor. I think that's probably possible.
I think you can just make it like dodgeable, right? Where maybe the burrow only goes in a straight line. Like once you burrow, you can only move forward in a straight line up until a certain distance. Then you'll automatically come out. But anywhere in that straight line, you can press it again to sort of like unburrow and come out immediately. So
sure,
it almost be like a projectile. You become a projectile in that sense, where like you have to fire yourself at the right angle and have the right timing so that when you get to the target, you can unburrow and hit it. But then the enemy team would have the choice, right? Like they can see you burrowing and they can change their direction to avoid you.
Yeah. Now, we actually have time, I think, because that's all I got for this one. I think we got time for maybe one or two more if they're shorter. Let's do the Dancer, because I love this one.
All right, throw it out.
If you have not played any Final Fantasy games that involve a Dancer, you're missing out. Or if you haven't played Fire Emblem, because most Fire Emblem games have a Dancer class. This is based more on the Final Fantasy XIV MMO version, which allows the player to use ring ranged DPS. So they have bladed rings similar to a Chinese weapon, and that they can throw, and they spin for damage. So think Whirling Dervish more than Dancer. Okay, or Beyblades or Hitmontop from Pokemon, whatever you want, right? So the idea with this hero is it's a support-based DPS, similar to like a Symmetra, where you select another player on your team, either as an ultimate or as a temporary buff or as a permanent buff, depending on how you want to run this, where you select a dance partner to salsa with, and when you select the dance partner, you both get a benefit from a buff ability. And you can choose what the buff is. In Final Fantasy 14, it's just a 5% damage buff for both of you, which is interesting. And I think that this is a similar thing that you could do to this is like a weaker version of Mercy's Tether. And you could just do that, and it would be lesser. but it would be less restrictive. So it'd be less damage bonus, but could be less restrictive. Like you don't have to have line of sight on them. You just choose them and you get it for a set amount of duration. You both can do it. If you're closer together to that player, then maybe the benefit increases. I don't know. You could have a vicinity thing there. And the other idea I had was changing the damage bonus to just being a speed buff, and it's only speed. Because we know how strong speed is in Overwatch. It's just as strong as healing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's very strong.
So that could be cool.
In a
the
way,
other thing
it
you could
almost has
do
to be
is
like exclusive, so that you can't use like Lucio and her at the same time, or him.
right. You want it to be additive if possible, so it'd have to be lesser speed buff. But the other thing that I was thinking about this hero is that maybe the dance partner is a little bit more of a passive mechanic. You could lessen this, so you could give the speed. You could dance partner a specific player only. So maybe you can't dance partner a DPS. Maybe you can only dance partner a tank, or you can only dance partner a support. And then you get a very small passive bonus, like maybe Mercy's passive healing. So if I don't know, if both of you are now not taking damage, then you just start healing passively. That's the dance partner thing.
So I like this like pairing mechanic, because there are heroes in the game that are already like really good for this. Mercy probably being like the biggest one here, where she's just really nice having next to you, right? And there's not a lot of heroes like Mercy that can enhance your abilities just having her next to you, kind of like
especially as a DPS, right? Because that's the whole concept here.
Yeah, and like I think Mercy can pair up with like certain heroes really, really well, but does not pair up with other heroes really well. So it would be interesting if this dancer hero almost fills the other side, right? Where like he can pair with the heroes that Mercy doesn't pair well. Like Mercy is great with mobile heroes. She can stick with them. She can enhance their damage. She can keep him healed through the thick and thin. But for example, you don't want the Mercy to be like the main healer of the Reinhardt, right? Reinhardt itself just takes too much damage. It is not very mobile to the point where like Mercy would be putting herself in danger just staying with the Reinhardt, and her healing is usually like not even enough to keep up a Reinhardt that's getting damaged by a lot of people. So it'd be interesting if like this dancer could like maybe pair up with those heroes, right? With the heroes that are like less mobile. And I think it would be cool if when you pair up with somebody, you actually boost some part of their kit quite a bit, whether it be their damage or their resistances or whatever that may be. But it would also be cool if there was a drawback to it, right? If there was some way.
So let's get into that, because I did write something in for that.
Cool.
So for the drawback and also for the bonus, you could have a separate ability or an ultimate, again, where you have to do something like in Final Fantasy, when you use the dancer to activate this dance partner buff for you and your partner, you have to do what's called a standard dance followed by some sequence of button presses that are random, that the input will randomize and tell you need to press. It will change your basic rotation of 1, 2, 3, and 4, your 1, 2, 3, 4 abilities to dance steps. And then it will force you to do a standard finish.
Almost like
for
Dance Revolution, but with
like keys. A DDR thing. Mm-hmm. And so when you first start out with Dancer, it's only one. You activate the dance, you start the dance, and then you do 1 and then 2, or 3, 4 and then 1, or whatever it is. It's just 2 inputs, and then you have to finish the dance by using the same button that you use to start it. So your start is also your finish button. So you start 1, 2, 1, 2 step essentially, right? And then you do finish, and then you get the buff for a set time, and then it hits you on the clock for 60 seconds. And then you have to do it every minute. You have to keep refreshing this buff. Now, this is MMO mechanics, so keep that in mind. And in Overwatch, you'd want this significantly shorter and maybe more potent. And then on top of that, later on, they increase the potency and increase the difficulty of how many steps you have to make. So you have to do 4 steps now for the tactical finish or whatever. And I could see this not just doing the speed, right? This could do shields. This could do Brigitte armor.
The
this
part
could
that gets
just
boosted
produce a barrier.
Yeah, the part that get boosted or that you get could be almost anything, right? Any benefit depending where you want to take it. But yeah, I don't know if like having to do a sequence of button presses in Overwatch would be feasible, at least in the middle of the battle. That might be.
I think that you're right. It could be maybe that
But you
you
can have a
have to do
requirement
something like
that.
Doomfist, right? Where Doomfist is combo based. Maybe you make the abilities like this is the passive thing, right? The dancing is the passive thing, and the combos produce different things. So if you do shift followed by E, then you get this effect. But if you do E followed by shift, then you get this effect. So instead of doing the regular standard Overwatch inputs, right? You got your ultimate, you got your ability 1, your ability 2, your primary fire, your secondary fire. All of those are just replaced with dance steps. And whatever you do within sequence, whatever the sequence is, you've got your primary fire is your start and finish. And you've got the other buttons where you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it does this effect instead of just doing a single input. It could be a high skill cap hero.
Okay, this is actually pretty interesting. Like if you had 3 abilities that maybe by themselves they just have a very minor
They don't do much.
effect. Yeah, very minor, just like some maybe like passive health regeneration for like a little bit, or
throws a dart or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe like a very something very small. But depending on how you combine these 3 abilities, then you get like a greater effect come out of that.
Yeah, that or it's really something simple, right? It's like it gives you a buff. It says, okay, the next time you throw your dancing weapon, whatever your weapon may be, or your whatever you fire your gun next, it shoots 3 times, or it does this much damage instead of this much damage, right?
Yeah, like one of them can be like a big heal, one of them could be like a shield, one of them could be like some sort of.
It depends on what kind of hero this is, I think. Yeah. Right? It could be if this is a tank hero, this could be a DPS hero, this could be a support hero, it could be any of them, honestly. It depends on what the mechanic is.
That is interesting. It reminds me of like there was a hero in Dota. I remember what the name is, like the Invoker or something like that, where your 3 spells don't do anything by themselves. They literally are just like these orbs that kind of like float around you, and you have like 3
it's
different
just like Kalthas and heroes.
Yeah, and then like depending on how you combine your orbs, you'll get like a different spell out of it. So it's like the only hero that has like 15 spells in the game. Like most heroes only have 4, but this one has like 15, which makes it hard to play because you don't. 1, you have to know what the spells are. 2, you have to know what combinations get you the spell. But after you get used to this, he's one of the most versatile heroes in the entire game because you have tools for everything.
And I think that this hero could be such that you could pop these abilities in such a sequence where the only benefit is charging your ultimate, and it would still be worth if you could make the ultimate spectacular. Right? Maybe your dance finish while in your ultimate does a ginormous AoE explosion, and it doesn't make any sense other than your salsa just salsa a little bit more salsa that time. You know what I mean?
Spicy.
Like, yeah, you just got some extra spice and that's it. But it doesn't really matter if the payoff is good enough. The players are just going to do whatever it takes because charging your ultimate economy is huge. Maybe the only benefit is just passive charging of ultimates. That could be really good, even if there's no other effect. Because the only thing that interacts with that is just damage and kills.
Yeah, this is an interesting hero. The abilities, you have to be able to fire them really fast in a sequence. Like they can't take very long, right? So you can kind of like still react.
Yeah, either that or it would be that the windup is intriguing. Maybe it's a compounding thing, right? So you do this one, followed by this one, followed by this one. They just ramp up if you do them in order, but on their own, if you don't do them in that order, they suck, or they don't do the thing that you want them to do. Like this order is the damage order. This. Each of these abilities do damage, but if you start with the buff thing, then each of the abilities convert to buff abilities. I don't know. Like again, this thing is a sandbox creation that you can just run with, because this isn't limited to dancing. This is limited to anything, right? Like Andres was saying with the Evoker.
It doesn't have to be a dancer. Anything. It could be like the mechanic could be applied to like any flare that you want.
Like different ammos in your revolver. Maybe you just have different ammo shells you're putting in a shotgun. It could be anything. Right.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like because
this is my favorite mechanic because my wife's been playing Dancer and I've been playing Astrologian, so it's been crazy.
Yeah, I don't think we have a mechanic like this at all anywhere near Overwatch. So this could be pretty interesting. We would have to see how it would work in the game, right? Because it can be a clunky mechanic if it's too complicated to sort of put this out, or it takes too long to fire a lot of these abilities. Because a lot of the stuff in Overwatch is you have to react in less
It's
than a
fast.
second, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be reacting really, really fast, like on the spot, pretty much as you see it happening. So you would have to be able to get some of these effects on the spot like that, or at least the effect be powerful enough that even though it's late, it still has an impact.
Now, I don't know if you have time, Andres, but I kind of want to hit this astrologian ability one more. Let's do one
Okay,
more and finish there.
hit it.
Okay. So this one is based off of Gambit from X-Men and the astrologian from Final Fantasy. But if you have played League of Legends, you also know that there's a hero called Twisted Fate that has 3 cards that all do different things. So let's just run through a couple things, right? So in League of Legends, he's very simple. He has a teleport ultimate ability where he can see all of the enemies on the map, and he gets vision, and then he can teleport anywhere within a very large radius. That's his ultimate. He can activate his cards, and it just cycles red, blue, yellow, red, blue, yellow. Red is a AoE superb damage buff. So he does more damage to the primary target, and then it spreads out like an explosion. The blue one gives him mana back so he can use more of his abilities. So this card's kind of irrelevant for Overwatch illustrations. But it kind of just maybe lowers all your cooldowns or something. And then the yellow card is a stun. So your whole thing is waiting for the rotations, picking the card, and then throwing it. So you have those 3 mechanics that you have to balance. So you can essentially start picking your card, cast your ultimate, wait for the card that you want, and then pick the card, teleport, and then when you show up, you can hit them with a stun right away. And then he has another ability where he throws 3 cards for like 3 different sources of damage. It's kind of like a cleave, but it's not. It's only a cleave if you can get all 3 of the cards that hit the same target when you're really, really close. Not advantageous. But that's pretty much his kit. He's got another one where every 5th or 6th ability, or 3rd or 5th ability is bonus damage, and it's when he gets a bunch of cards that float around him. So after you've thrown so many ulti attacks, that's his stuff.
So it's almost like he's on a constant timer where his abilities are kind of like changing in a set interval.
Yeah, so he gets a buff after a certain amount of draws, essentially is the idea. Now, Astrologian, on the other hand, in Final Fantasy, is a support hero. It is a classed healer that is based off of tarot cards and astrology. So they're not drawing regular cards. This is like playing cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the big meme for them. The tarot cards kind of predict the future and use divination magic to heal people with using stars and the future. It's really cool. So their whole thing is read card readings to give buffs to your allies. So you can give an ally a buff of a 4% damage bonus or a 6% damage bonus, depending on if you chose the right card. So you have melee and tanks. If you get this light blue outline on the card, then you get you get more damage. But if you're a DPS character or like a ranged DPS character and a healer and you get a purple card, you can throw the purple cards on them and they get more damage. So either way, they're always getting a damage buff, but there's this RNG mechanic that you can get more damage if you give it to the correct targets.
Gotcha. Interesting.
All right. Then there's a secondary mechanic where they have a second marking on the cards and you have to try to get the stars to align. You have a moon, a sun, and a star, and you have to get one of each of them banked up after you've been playing cards. They have the primary thing of the damage buff, then they have a secondary thing of trying to get one of each of the things each time you play a card. And then they have a redraw mechanic to allow you to draw cards from your sleeve or just draw more cards and put the card away and try to get the buffs that you want so that you can cast divination, which is your 2-minute cooldown that gives everybody in the party a 2, 4, or 6 damage percent if you can get all of the different symbols. So they're additive. So you can give a big party buff, stockpile one of your cards so you can draw another card immediately, buff somebody, divination, buff another player. So you can get 2 players can have a 12% buff and the rest of the party can have a 6% buff. So you can burst the bosses down really fast if you can do this. So that's the kind of general mechanic there, and they're also just a healer. So that being said, how do we translate this to Overwatch? Sorry, it's kind of a long lead in. But I'm thinking small things like speed, heals, and just giving a shield-based heal that can be re-healed for a short amount of time. So Brigitte has this with a slow regenning armor pack. But why not a shield pack, right? It's like, or a 25% damage buff, or a 25% speed buff, or just 100 temporary shields for a short amount of time that can keep regenerating, even though you're not mitigating any damage per se. You're just giving them more. What do you think, Andre? Sorry, there's a long lead in, but that's kind of the pitch.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think that the randomized mechanic I think might be hard to introduce into Overwatch, depending on what it does. Right? The last thing that I would want in Overwatch is to want to fire something and deal damage, and instead it heals or its speed boosts me. Right? So that part we do. I think would need some tweaking at least to try to find.
I was thinking Zenyatta is kind of the primary way this would apply, right? You target somebody and you throw the buff with your abilities, but then you have your primary fire is just throwing cards at people.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that is.
And then your heals in this kit are, I'm trying to think of how they look. They're kind of just like stars spinning around. So I don't know how that would work, but you kind of like set up a constellation. Maybe you have a pinpoint map where if you can get two people close to each other, they heal. Or if you're a vicinity-based healer like Moira and Lucio, possibly. Or maybe you just cast a buff on a certain player. And when you hit that player, anybody around them gets the healing. So Lucio, it's all about where he is. This healer's a little bit like further back. They can just set up the Lucio, essentially. Mm-hmm. Put somebody else on it. Or maybe you just buff your Lucio and then they just run around solo. I don't know. It could be cool.
Yeah, it could definitely be interesting. I'm just having a hard time wrapping myself around like the random mechanic of it. But I like the idea of like the shield thing that you were saying, like to be able to put a shield. I think it would be cool if it was like a shield that lasted very little, but if kind of like Zarya, if you get hit while the shield is on, you get some benefit. Maybe not like charge energy and like you gain more damage, but maybe like that person heals up a percentage of the damage that was dealt to them while the shield was on, for example.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a decaying shield like Doomfist or Lucio's ultimate, but more temporary on a cooldown.
Yeah. You know one mechanic we don't have in Overwatch that I always thought it was kind of cool because it's a very skillful sort of ability? In Heroes of the Storm, there was this guy called the Monk that his ultimate was like something palm or like savior palm or something like that. But basically, you would target one of your allies and the effect would last maybe like 0.5 seconds or something like that.
I think it's Karazim is his name, right?
Karazim, yeah. Like the effect of his ultimate would last very little, but if at any point during that little amount of time your ally was killed, instead of them getting killed, they would regain their entire health. They would sort of be like invulnerable for like a brief period of time and then gaining their entire health back. And I think that could be an interesting mechanic in Overwatch. Sort of a last save. The thing is, you have to be very good with your timing. If you throw
Divine Palm,
that is what it is. You have to throw it basically at the same time that they're about to die, like right before it. So your timing has to be impeccable. So
this is a 60-second cooldown, like a res, to be fair, in Heroes. So that's like, pretty adjacent.
It's like a preemptive res, basically.
Yeah. So it says it protects an allied hero from death, causing them to be healed for like 1,000 damage.
It's a huge amount, yeah.
It's like 50% of your hit points or more. If they take fatal damage in the next 3 seconds.
3 seconds. So you have a 3-second window.
I love this idea.
It's a really cool idea, and I think it would fit Overwatch because one, the person firing the ability has to know this person's about to die. If you throw it before that, you literally wasted the ability. The ability has no effect.
There's no
whatsoever.
Purpose.
Yeah, no effect whatsoever. If you throw it after, it's too late.
That's fine.
There's no target, right? But if you throw it right at the exact second, it's a huge swing.
For divination, magic style based hero, that works for sure. For the monk, it works because it's essentially denying pain, right? It's a divine palm. You're kind of blocking their ki so they can't die. Something like that, or hardening their iron. And that's something that I had as an idea, and the other ideas, Andres, which is the invincibility thing. I had the same idea, but not the resurrection mechanic. It was more of like, you can go in, and it's a dive ability. It's a gap closer. It's really, really powerful. But the problem is you can't move for a second after you use it. You can't shoot, but you're invincible. And then as soon as you come out of it, you have to dash a short distance to another location and do a little bit of damage to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So you're super, super vulnerable once you use it offensively, but it probably wouldn't be used offensively most of the time.
And the coolest thing about a mechanic like that is that you can still counter it, right? If you're playing against a team
Just
that has
CC.
like a kerosene or whatever astrological healer he might be, and you are about to kill somebody, you might think to yourself, he might get divine palmed right here, right?
Right.
And
It
there
could be
should
saving it.
and there should be like a visual effect so that if you put the divine palm, it's very clear that he is being protected at that moment. So the enemy does have a short window where he could hold off that last little bit of damage, right? And just wait for the divine palm effect to wear off and then finish the person. So
Now,
I like that he has kind of like counter ability.
I will say that if this mechanic were in the game, it could be game breaking. We would have to balance that around things like Nano Boost, right? And Zarya Bubble. Because if those things are all additive, you can essentially set up a blading Genji that has a bubble for the first 2 seconds, has a divine palm for the last like 3 seconds, and then by the time he puts his sword away, that's your only time that you can interact with him. So
so definitely it's a mechanic that is very powerful. It might need some tweaking, but you know we have res, we have shields, we have things like Ananade, which honestly sort of do the same thing, right? Like one of your teammates is about to die, and the enemy teammate is like full health. You throw an Ananade at them, and you basically just flipped it, right? You fully healed your ally, and then the other guy is kind of like low. So there are some effects in the game already that can do those huge swings or kind of like keep somebody alive for a while. The point is, you know, in a game like Overwatch, maybe you don't give the divine palm like 3 seconds of lead time, right? Maybe in Overwatch,
maybe it's like a second and a half.
A second and a half, maybe even just a second, right? Like a second might be enough to like make it consistent enough, but not easy to land.
Or maybe you just deny the overheal. Maybe it just denies death, but not CC. Right?
Yeah, maybe it could deny death and just give you like a very brief period of invulnerability or something, or maybe like your healer
then it
can
keeps
have
the CC valuable. It keeps the CC valuable because you can still interact with them. Like if they're divine palm, that's great. You can still sleep dart them, or you can still stun them and move away, or boop them. Like those things are still existing.
That is the other thing, and I don't know how much this was working Overwatch, but if you get divine palmed and you get killed, you do stand still for a very brief period of time.
It's like a mercy rezzing, right? It takes a long time to have the animation fulfill.
Exactly. It's not only like that, like in the game, you almost like fall to your knees and then like the divine palm comes into effect, so you kind of like get up right away. It's it's like a tiny little stun, but it does have like a
defibrillator.
Period. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll be looking forward to any feedback that you have on this. I'm very curious as to what you guys are thinking about this. We do have a couple more ideas. Again, this is not exhaustive. This is just some cool stuff. I'm sorry for all you people that don't like MOBAs out there. I've got a lot of background in MOBAs. Andres and I used to play Heroes all the time. We come from Hearthstone. We play other games. It does happen. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, so that's like forefront of my mind. There was another thing that I hadn't gotten a chance to write down that I would be curious about, which is a pet-based hero. That's something that we've always been looking about, right? Like a mage and a water elemental from WoW, Beastmaster type hero, those type of things where you interact with a pet, similar to the turret in Torbjorn. I think that there's room for something with that could be interesting.
Honestly, Overwatch being such an ability-based game, even though it's a first-person shooter, a lot of this MOBA stuff like translates really, really well into Overwatch. Because it's Overwatch is basically a MOBA disguised as a first-person shooter, in my opinion. So a lot of these ideas
kind of have to have skill shots mixed in more.
It's just like with Overwatch compared to a MOBA, things happen a little bit faster. It's a lot more fast-paced, and you have to worry about a 3D environment rather than a 2D. So much more space to be having to fire abilities and sort of maneuver around.
Not to mention the healing is incredibly valuable in this game, more so than pretty much anything.
But I mean, that being said, they play very, very similarly, where like when you're thinking about new heroes and new abilities that you can add in the game, a lot of the abilities in MOBAs translate quite well.
Yeah, they do. All right, folks, I think that's going to wrap up. I need to get over to thank some people real quick. We've got our diamond sponsors, Darren G, Cypher, Shazir, Anagram, Shepard, Tonka Truck, Many Face God, Michael M. Thank you guys so much for your support, and a big shout out to Darren G, who sent us an incredibly long and thankful email, and it was very heartwarming. So big ups to Darren for his support. Thank you so much for that. I enjoyed reading it. I read it more than once, and I'm still trying to parse how we're going to read it on the show, maybe before the end of the month. But we really appreciate your support, so thank you so much for that. If you guys are joining, the coaching sessions are still available. Patreon.com. A little bit of shout out at the bottom of the show to Violet, one of the streamers for the Houston Outlaws, that is putting together a Overwatch creators Discord that I just joined like today, and it's been great kind of seeing how many people are kind of migrating over there and trying to do some collab work. So maybe that'll open some doors in the future to get some different people from tier 3 and tier 2 Overwatch, which we haven't really had a whole lot of exposure of those folks in our thing, just streamers and popular folks, as well as some of the Overwatch League personalities. We're trying to meet some ends in the middle and get some of those folks here. Andres, where can people find the show, and where can people find you?
If you guys want to find the show, you can look it up on Twitter, #OmnicLab. You can also find it on the website, omniclabpodcast.com. And if you want to personally find me, you can do so over on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And you can also find me streaming occasionally on my Twitch, iPlayGames TV.
I should really get back to streaming, especially with how much gaming I'm playing. It's more social, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone want to watch an MMO. Yeah, just flip it on. We'll see. But again, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 193. We're going to try to pump out another show hopefully this weekend, but we'll see how the work schedules line up. We'll see you for game night at least. So be there, be square. Thank you so much for listening to Omnic Lab, and Vast for dropping some 100 bits right at the beginning, right at the end of the show, throwing me for a loop on this outro. But you can find me at NotRob on the Twitterverse, and you can also find me at NotRobMay on Discord. Sorry, I'm trying to suppress a burp here so it doesn't get on air. But we'll see you guys next week, and remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you then. And I play the intro, not the outro. On my mixer.
Hey,
we're not starting a new show.
Shout out to Vast for the 100 bits.
Yeah, Vast and Tonka Truck and Shazir.
Everyone
Auto.
Chat.
I have nothing more to teach
Yeah.
you.
I cannot pronounce that name.
You must learn for yourself.
Auto
Follow me,
Poetico.
my student.
Poetico. And Twitch the Spark. Uzi Sauce.
Later, guys. Thanks for being
hanging out.
here.